How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Yud Beis, Daf 12 of Masechta Makos. Friends, okay. Wow. All right. So here's the deal with Yud Beis. It's kind of a daf. It gets a little bit tricky at one point, and I haven't decided yet if I want to finish the parak. I kind of do want to finish the parak, so we'll see. I might just push for it to try and finish the parak, even though there's a complicated bit in the middle. We might be tired by the end, but I think it'll just be nice to start with a new parak tomorrow. So I think I haven't decided yet. I'll decide at the last minute, I guess, if I'm going to push for the end of the parak. So we might finish the second parak of Masechta Makos. We're flying through Masechta Makos. The whole Masechta. We're already halfway through the Masechta. We just started. So, all right, here we go. We're gonna start on Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, about 6 lines into the Daf. It says the Gemara, and Yud Beis Amud Aleph, about 6 or so lines into the Daf, at the 2 dots. Nigmar Dino v'chule Amar V'Yuda Amar Rab Shtei Uyos Ta Yoav be'Oisa Shoya. What the heck is this talking about? Dichsiv Vayonos Yoav el Oel. But I don't know. Wait, what are we talking about? Yeah, I don't know. I guess your Miklat stuff. Okay. So when Yoav, right? So Shlomo Hamelech sent Benayo to kill Yoav, and Yoav ran into the Mishkan, and he held onto the horns, onto the top, the corners of the Mizbeach, of the altar. It says of Yudah Merab, that Yoav made 2 mistakes. The pasuk says, "Vayanos Yoav el Oyel Hashem," that Yoav ran to the tent of God, "Vayachazek bekanos hamizbeach," and he held on to the horns of the corners of the top corners of the mizbeach. Number 1, Ta'a she'eno kolet ela gago v'utafas bekarnosov, that it's the top of the mizbeach that would protect him, right? Because it says me'im mizbechiti kochenu lamus, that you can extract somebody from next to the mizbeach and have him killed. And he thought that holding on to the horns of the mizbeach would be helpful, but no, you have to be on top of the mizbeach. And secondly, he made the mistake she'enu kolet ela mizbeach beis oilamim v'utafas mizbeach. So it says here shel shilo, but Rashi says it's really be shel bama. That the only mizbeach that it's when it says me'im mizbechi tikochenu lamos, it's talking about in the Beis Hamikdash, and here this was a bama. It was a temporary mizbeach. Abai Omer says Abai ba'anami mit'ah, but he made a third mistake, which is ta'ah. So ta'ah she'eno kolet ela koin va'avoda biyado v'huzar hoya, that also the only one who would be protected would be a kohen who is in the middle of doing the service. Yoav was not a priest. Rish Lakish says, Rish Lakish shalish ta'uyos osid sar shal Romi litos. In the future, the heavenly officer of Rome is going to make 3 mistakes. Right, the apostle says, "Mize ba me Edom chamutz begadim mi botzcho." That who is this coming from Edom? He's all dirty, bloodied clothing from Botzra, and that's a reference to Hashem coming from Botzra, having slain the Saro Shel Rome. Toye she'ena koletes ela betzer v'ugola li Botzra. Mistake number 1 was that, as the city of refuge is as Betzer Bamidbar. It's called Betzer, but the officer of Rome, the heavenly officer of Rome, ran to Botzra. That was a mistake number 1. Toa she'ena koletes ela shogeg v'umezid hoya. Number 2, your miklats only afford refuge to accidental killers, and he was, and throughout all the throughout history, Esav has been doing intentional bad things to the Yidden. And finally, Toeh she'eno koletis ela Odom v'Malachu. And thirdly, an Ir Miklat only protects people, and the heavenly officer of of Rome is a angel, Azoi. Therefore, he would not be afforded protection in an Ir Miklat. Amr Babo says Babo, Ari Miklat lo nitnu lekvura. Okay, so Babo that you can't bury in Ir Miklats. Tichsiv migushem yu levehemtom v'lechushim l'chochayosum. Chochayosum, I think. Well, no, let's look it up. What is it supposed to say? Chayosum. So by these Ari Levim, right? V'hayua Arim Laim Lasheves, right? That by the Ari Levim, and the Ari Levim, of course, are also Ari Miklats. It says that, so basically the Levite cities in their Tchum, in the 2,000 Amas outside of the Levite cities, the first 1,000 Amas was for recreational use, right? For their stuff and for their animals, and to make tennis courts and things. And then the second 1,000 Amas was for fields, okay? And so the Pasuk says, Megushem yu levehemtom, that these areas outside of the city are for their animals, for their chushim, and for their stuff, and for their lives. L'chaim nitnu v'lo lekvura. These areas are for living; they are not for burying. Meisveg, we have a contradiction. Shama, our Mishnah, I think it was from our Mishnah, right? Was it our Mishnah? Yeah, our Mishnah says Shama. Shamte diraso. That is where the accidental killers will live. Shamte misaso. That is where they will die, assuming that the Kohen Gadol does not die first. Shamte kivuraso, and that is where they will be buried. So you can be buried by the Ir Miklat. Rotzeach shiny dugali barachmana. Yeah, the killers can be buried by the Ir Miklat, because that pasuk is in reference to the accidental killers. But Leviim would not be buried in their Ir Miklats. They would be taken to places like Wellwood, for example. Okay. Now, Kishem Sha'ir Kolet is V'chule. So we said that just like the city itself affords refuge, so does the 2,000 Amas surrounding it, the Tchum. V'aminu, we have a contradiction. V'yoshav ba v'lo betchuma. We have a brisa that says that you will settle in the city itself, not in the Tchum. Abai says, Abai lo kasha, it's no question. Kan liklot, kan la dur. Yeah. In terms of affording refuge from the Goel Adam, the 2,000 Amas provides such refuge. In terms of living there, and building a house there, you cannot build a house in the Tchum. Lodu tepukle de'ein osin sode migrosh v'lo migrosh sode lo migrosh ir v'lo ir migrosh. But the fact that you can't live in the Tchum, because the Tchum, of course, was made up of, as I explained, 1,000 Amas of recreation and 1,000 Amas of fields, and we learn de'ein osin. I'm going to read that again. Sode migrosh, that the field part you can't make it turn into recreation. V'lo migrash sod, in the recreational part you can't make fields. Lo migrash ir, you can't make the recreation part a city. You can't spill over and have houses there. V'lo ir migrash, and you can't make the city into the recreation part. Everything is specific, and therefore, of course, you cannot live in the Tchum. So Omer of Sheshes says of Sheshes L'Nitzchel Mechilos. Well, the Chiddush here is that you even can't dig underneath and have tunnels and use that. I guess live in there or something. You can't do that either. Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay. What do you want me to tell you? Don't live in tunnels under the Tchum. I think that's what it's saying. So if an accidental murderer leaves the Tchum of the Ir Miklat, that the Goel Hadam, so it says that the Goel Hadam kills the Rotzeach being the accidental killer. Mitzvah biad Goel Hadam. Okay, so this is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, as we saw. I think did we see it in the Mishnah already? Yeah, we did. That according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, it is a mitzvah for the Goel Adam to kill the Rotzeach. Ein Goel Adam, and if there is no Goel Adam, Rishus biyad kol Adam, then any other person has the option to kill the Rotzeach. Did Rabbi Yossi Aglili, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Rabbi Kiva Omer says, Rabbi Kiva Rishus biyad Goel Adam, it is optional. The Goel Adam has the option to kill the Rotzeach if he wants to. V'chol Adam chayovin olav, and anybody else would be in trouble. Would be a murderer if they kill the Rotzeach. My time with Rabbi Yossi Aglili. How come Rabbi Yossi Aglili says it's a mitzvah for the Goel Adam to kill the Rotzeach? Miksiv im Rotzach. It doesn't say if the Goel Adam kills the Rotzeach. It says v'rotzach. He will kill him. Rabbi Kiva argues miksiv yirtzach. Does it say that he will kill the Rotzeach? That he has to? No, it doesn't. And it's optional, according to Rabbi Akiva. Omer Marzutra bar Tuvye Omer Rav. Now says Marzutra bar Tuvye Omer Rav, Rotzeach sheyotzo chutz letchum umitzo goyel adam v'hargo neherog olav. That says Marzutra bar Tuvye Omer Rav that if the Rotzeach steps out of the tchum and the goyel adam kills him, the goyel adam is chayev misa for that. He's not allowed to kill the Rotzeach. Now, I believe, but I mean, obviously the Torah talks about the Goel Adam killing the Rotzeach. I think that would be specifically after he's been convicted in court. I think this is talking about before he's convicted in court, he runs to the Yer Miklat, and then if he leaves the Yer Miklat and the Goel Adam kills him, I think Rabbi Yossi, I think Marzutra bar Tuvya Omer Rav is saying that the Goel Adam is not yet allowed to kill the Rotzeach. Kiman, now who's this like? Lok Rabbi Yossi Aglili v'lok Rabbi Akiva. That's like neither Rabbi Yossi Aglili nor like Rabbi Akiva. Right? Rabbi Yossi Aglili said it's a mitzvah for the Goel Adam to kill the Rotzeach. Rabbi Akiva says it's optional. Here, Marzutra bar Tuvya Omer Rav is saying that he's not allowed to. So who? The Omer Kihai Tana. Well, he's holding like the following Tana. The Tana Rabbi Eliezer. Mrs. Rabbi Eliezer ad omdo lifnei ha'eda la mishpat. That it says in the pasuk until the Rotzeach goes to court. What does the pasuk say? V'hayu lachem ha'arim lemiklat migoyel v'lo yomus Rotzeach ad amdu lifnei eda lemishpat. You can't kill the Rotzeach until he has his day in court. Matam lomer. How come it says this? Fishenemar v'rotzach goyel adam asar Rotzeach. Well, because the pasuk says that the goyel adam does kill the Rotzeach. Yochel miyad. Is it possible that the goyel adam can even kill him immediately? No, he first has to go to court. So according to Rabbi Eliezer / Rabbi Zutra bar Tuvya Omer Rav, the Goel Adam is not allowed to kill the Rotzeach until the Rotzeach has been it has been determined in court that he is chayiv galus, and at that point, if he leaves the Ir Miklat, then the Goel Adam can kill him, but not before then. It sounds like though the Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi Aglili, though, it sounds like they would say that even before then, they would be allowed to, the Goel Adam would be allowed to kill him. Rabbi Yossi Aglili, Rabbi Akiva, hi, ad omdo lifnei ha'eda lemishpat my darshibe. So then, if Rabbi Yossi Aglili and Rabbi Akiva say that he can be killed even before he has his day in court, so then what do they do with the pasuk that says ad omdo lifnei ha'eda lemishpat? Which talks about him going to court. So, they say that that's talking about Lichdetanya, like we learn in the Brayso. Rabbi Kiva says, Rabbi Kiva, minayin l'Sanhedrin, shiro echad shargas hanefesh. How do we know that if the Sanhedrin themselves witness a murder? She'ein memisin oso ad sheyamud bebezdin acher. How do we know that they can't serve as the bezdin? Rather, the case would have to take place in a different bezdin. Then until he goes to Bezdin, he has to go to a different Bezdin. Right, not right. So Sanhedrin witnessed it; they can't be the judges. He has to go to a different Bezdin. One of the rabbis said, Im yotza yotzo, im yotzo yotzo. Oh, what's that pasuk? Im yetze yotzo, yotzo yetze, im yotzo yetze. V'im yotzo yetze, that's what it is. Right, im yotzo yetze ha roitzeach. If the roitzeach surely exits. Ainli ella b'mezid. Okay, so all I know is that if the Rotzeach leaves the Tchum of the Ir Miklat intentionally, B'shogig minayin, how do I know that even if he leaves the Tchum unintentionally, he can be targeted by the Goel Adam? So Talmud Lomar, im yatzo yetzi mikomakum. If he surely leaves, whether intentional, whether unintentional, the Goel Adam can get him. Ve'atanya b'mezid nerag b'shogig gole. But we learn in a brisa that he can only be killed by the Goel Adam if he left intentionally. If he left unintentionally, then he's allowed to just go back in to the Ir Miklat. He can't be killed. Lokasha, it's no question. Ha Commander Omar Amrinan Dibra Teira Kloshim Bnei Adam. Ha Commander Omar Lo Amrinan Dibra Teira Kloshim Bnei Adam. The question is, when it says Yatso Yetze, is it specifically coming to include all types of leaving, whether intentional or unintentional, or is it just saying Dibra Teira Kloshim Bnei Adam? That's just how the people talk. Yatso Yetze, bada bing, bada boom. The double lashon shall surely go out. It's not teaching anything new. It's just saying, it's just a normal way to talk, and it's only referring to Mazid. It is not referring to Shogig. So if you say Dibatorah Kloshim B'nei Adam, then it is only Mazid, it is not Shogig. If you say that it is coming to include Shogig, it's coming to include Shogig. And the Taka makes sense according to the opinion that the Torah is just simply speaking as the people speak, so it is not coming to include Shogeg, and the Goel Adam may not kill the Rotzeach if he leaves by accident, so that the end of the killer should not be more stringent than the beginning. What does that mean? For what he did itself, for the murder itself, if he did it intentionally, then he's chayiv misa. But if it was unintentional, then he is exiled. So right, if the sort of what he did, the thing that he did itself, which is kill somebody, if it's intentional, he's killed. If it's unintentional, he's not killed. He goes to Ir Miklat. So then also his ultimate sort of state of Kilu, can the Goel Adam kill him? Well, it would have to be a similar thing. If he leaves intentionally, yes, the Goel Adam can kill him. If he leaves unintentionally, then no, you let him go back into the Ir Miklat. Okay. Tani Chada, one Braise says, Av Shehorag, if a father, right? So let's say you have Geva and you have Itamar, and their father's name is Yaakov, and Yaakov kills Geva. So Bino Naiselo Goel Adam. So guess who the Goel Adam is here? Itamar. Yaakov accidentally killed Geva, so his own son is the Goel Adam. Geva's brother Itamar becomes the Goel Adam, and he's going to chase after his father. V'tanidach, we have another verse that says, Ein b'no naselo Goel Adam. No, a son can't be a Goel Adam for his father. Sleimo harab Yosei Aglili ha v'harab Akiva. So let's say, well, it's Rabbi Yosei Aglili and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yosei Aglili says it's a mitzvah for the son to kill, it's a mitzvah for the Goel Adam to kill the Rotzeach. So if you're doing a mitzvah, so then even the son would be the Goel Adam. According to Rabbi Akiva, says it's not a mitzvah, it's optional. Well, then the son cannot be the Goel Adam for his father. But V'tizbra, but one second, L'man Da'amar mitzvah. I'm sorry, Bein L'man Da'amar mitzvah, Bein L'man Da'amar rishos, mishari. But I don't. Even if you're Rabbi Yosei Aglili, even if you say it's a mitzvah for the Goel Adam to kill the Rotzeach, regardless of if it's a mitzvah or not, a son cannot be a Goel Adam against his father. Ve'amar Rabba by Rav Huna v'cheitana d'ver b'shmuel la'kol eina ben naisa shliach la'aviv la'koso v'lekalalaso v'lekalalaso, I guess. Chutz mimesis shei amar Torah lo sachmo lo schaso olav. No, we learned to Masechta Sanhedrin that a son cannot be a shliach bezdin to give makos to his father, to excommunicate his father. Only if his father is a masis, where the Torah Davka says, lo sachma v'lo schasal, have no mercy, then a son could be on his father's case. But otherwise, no. Even if it's a mitzvah to give makos when necessary. It's a mitzvah, I guess, to excommunicate people if you need to. But a son cannot do it for his father, even though it's a mitzvah. So here also, a son can't be a goal adam against his father, even according to Yossi Aglili says it's a mitzvah. Rather, ella lokashu bivno or biven bino. No, rather, one Bryce is talking about his son, the other one is talking about his grandson. So Keilu, if Yaakov accidentally kills his son Geva, and Geva has a son Nadav, so Geva's brother Itamar cannot kill his father Yaakov, but Geva's brother Itamar cannot, but Geva's son Nadav can kill his grandfather Yaakov. He could be the Goel Adam for his father against his grandfather. Okay, so now we get to the next Mishnah. This next Mishnah, it's kind of technical, I would say. It's kind of technical. Ilon shu oimed besoich atchum v'nofo note chutz latchum, o omed chutz latchum v'nofo note besoich atchum akol holech achar anof. Okie dokie. So say you have a tree, and the tree is inside of the tchum of the ir miklat, so therefore it will provide refuge. Right. So if the rotzeach is standing under the tree, so he's in the tchum of the ir miklat. However, the branches of the tree are extended outside of the tchum of the ir miklat. Alternatively, if you have a tree that's outside of the tchum of the ir miklat, but the branches extend into the tchum of the ir miklat. So says the Mishnah, it all goes based on the branches. So in the first case, where the branches extend outside of the ir miklat, well, then we're going to treat that tree as though it is outside of the ir miklat. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so there's questions. So does that mean that if you are standing next to the tree, inside of the tchum of the ir miklat, the Goel Adam could still kill you because the branches extend outside of the tchum of the ir miklat? We're saying everything goes based on, the Gemara is going to talk about it, but basically we're saying that that everything goes based on where the branches are. Right? Alternatively, if you have a tree that's outside of the tchum of the ir miklat, but the branches extend into the tchum of the ir miklat, so even though you're standing outside of the tchum, but you're under this tree whose branches extend into the tchum, you are safe from the Goel Hadam. So Elon shu omed besoich atchum. If you have a tree that's inside of the tchum of the ir miklat, v'nofo nota chutz l'tchum, but the branches extend outside of the tchum, or the tree is outside the tchum, v'nofo nota besoch atchum, and the branches extend inside the tchum, hakol holech achar anof. Everything is determined based on where the branches extend to. If they extend inside the tchum, so then they're inside the tchum. If they extend outside of the tchum, then it's considered outside the tchum. Viramini. But we have a contradiction. Now this contradiction comes from Meiser Sheni. This contradiction comes from Meiser Sheni, because of course Meiser Sheni is also location specific. In order to eat Meiser Sheni, you have to be in Yerushalayim, right? Meiser Sheni, you take it from your house and you schlep it to Yerushalayim and eat it over there in Yerushalayim. So Ilan shu omid besocha pnim or bifnim. So if you have a tree inside of Jerusalem, v'note lechutz, but its branches extend outside of Jerusalem, o omid b'chutz, or it's outside of Jerusalem, v'note lefnim, and the branches extend inside Jerusalem, well, it doesn't matter. Mikeneged achoma v'lifnim kilifnim. If you're inside the walls, you're inside the walls. Mikeneged achoma v'lochutz kilochutz. If you're outside the walls, you're outside of the walls. So it has nothing to do with branches or trees or anything. If you're inside the wall, you're inside Yerushalayim. If you're outside the walls, you're outside Yerushalayim. So it has nothing to do with branches or anything like that. So we want to say, so it sounds like, based on Meiser Sheni, the branches and stuff don't matter. Answered the Gemara, where am I? Meiser Aori Miklot Ka Romis. Are you seriously asking a kasha against what our Mishnah by Ir Miklat based on a halacha by Meiser Sheni? Meiser Bechoma Tala Rachmana Aori Miklat Bedira Tala Rachmana. Meiser Sheni is about the walls of Jerusalem. You have to be inside the walls of Jerusalem. You have to be in Jerusalem. That's what it's all about. And therefore, if you're within the walls, you're in. If you're without the walls, you're out. Whereas, Ir Miklat is about living there. You live in the Ir Miklat. Benofo misder lay, beikaro lo misder lay. And a person who's going to live under a tree is going to live under the branches, the shade of the tree. He's not going to live under the base of the tree. Okay, fine. So therefore, fine. So we could say that by Ir Miklat, it would go based on the branches of the tree, but by Meiser Sheni would be based on, are you inside or are you outside of Jerusalem, of the walls? Okay, now, frekt the Gemara, Virami Meiser am Meiser. But even by Meiser Sheni itself, we have a contradiction because it says the Tanya, but the Tanan, we learn in the Mishnah, B'Yushalayim halech achar anof, b'Ari Miklat halech achar anof. That we have a Mishnah that says that just like by Ir Miklat, we go based on the branches, the Zel Bazach, the same thing by Jerusalem, by Meiser Sheni, as well, we also go based on the branches. Amar of Kahana lekasha Rabbi Yehuda v'Rabbanon. Kahana says, no problem. It's Poshet HaMachloikes, Rabbi Yehuda and the rabbis. Rabbi Yehuda, as we're going to see in a second, Rabbi Yehuda says that by Meiser Sheni, you go based on the branches, as we're going to see. And the rabbis are like the first brisa that we saw, that by Meiser Sheni, it's about, are you in Jerusalem or are you outside Jerusalem? The Tanya is, we learn in a brisa, Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda, b'mayre halech achar pischa, when it comes to Meiser Sheni, if there is a cave that goes underneath Jerusalem, but the entrance to the cave is outside of Jerusalem, it's considered, the whole cave is considered outside of Jerusalem. And the opposite is also true. If you have a cave that is outside of Jerusalem, but the entrance is inside Jerusalem, it's considered inside Jerusalem. That by a cave, it's all about where the entrance is. But ilon alech achar nofo, and by a tree, you go based on where the branches are. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. So we say no problem. When it comes to Meiser Sheni, the rabbis say it's about, are you in the walls of Jerusalem or outside the walls of Jerusalem? Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says that it's based on where the branches are. Okay. But frek the Gemara says something very interesting. So we be'etzem have like three sources over here by Meiser Sheni, okay? The first source by Meiser Sheni was that it's about the walls. You're inside the walls, you're outside the walls. The third, should I go to the third or the second? The third, sure. The third was this brisa, where Rabbi Yehuda said that by Meiser Sheni, you go based on the branches of the tree. Now, the middle source was basically comparing, was basically samenizing, making the same, equalizing, making the same, Meiser, drawing similarities, connecting Meiser Sheni and Ir Miklat. Right, saying that by Meiser Sheni, you go based on the branches, as well as by Ir Miklat, you go based on the branches. We wanted to say that this Mishnah, this middle source, is Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda says that by Meiser Sheni, you go based on the branches. So therefore, that middle source, that Mishnah, that says that both by Meiser Sheni and by Ir Miklat, you go based on the branches, that's Rabbi Yehuda. But the Gemara says, wait, maybe not so fast, because that Mishnah is unattributed. We want to argue that it's Rabbi Yehuda based on what he says by Meiser Sheni, that you can go based on the branches. So Memele, that Mishnah must be Rabbi Yehuda. To which we say, not so fast. All we know is that Rabbi Yehuda had said that by Meiser Sheni, you go based on the branches. The thing is that by Meiser Sheni, both when you're outside of Jerusalem and when you're inside of Jerusalem, there are chumras. What does that mean? Well, what it means is that, of course, we know by Meiser Sheni, when you're outside of Jerusalem, what's the Chumrah by Meiser Sheni outside of Jerusalem? You can't eat it. That's the Chumrah. If you want to eat it, you would have to be poda it first. Otherwise, you can't eat it. That's the Chumrah. Meiser Sheni in Jerusalem, what's the Chumrah? The Chumrah is that if you schlep your Meiser Sheni, your produce, to Jerusalem, once you're in Jerusalem, you can no longer be poda it for whatever, if you want to be poda it for whatever reason, you can no longer be poda it. So there are chumras both when you're in Jerusalem and when you're out of Jerusalem. So now maybe when Rabbi Yehuda says that by Meiser Sheni, it goes based on the branches, that's always being lechumra. Meaning, if you have a tree that's inside Yerushalayim, but the branches go outside of Yerushalayim, so being under that tree would be treated like outside Jerusalem, which would mean that if you have Meiser Sheni, you would not be able to eat it unless you had already been poda it in advance. Right? Because since the branches are outside of Jerusalem, we treat it like outside of Jerusalem. And even though you're in Jerusalem, under this tree, since the branches go outside Jerusalem, you cannot eat your Meiser Sheni unless it was already redeemed. So that's the chumrah where we could say that Rabbi Yehuda is being machmir to say that even though the branches are outside, right? So when the branches are outside of Jerusalem, we treat it like outside of Jerusalem. And also, if the tree is outside of the walls of Jerusalem, but the branches go inside the walls of Jerusalem, also we will be stringent to say that we treat it like it's in Jerusalem, which means that you would be unable to be, if you have this Meiser Sheni, you would be unable to be poda it when you're under this tree. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's correct. So in this brisa, we see that Rabbi Yehuda says that by Meiser Sheni we go based on the where the branches are. But maybe when Rabbi Yehuda says that, he's always being stringent, he's always being machmir. Now here's the thing, as I just explained, by Meiser Sheni, there's ways to be machmir either way. Whether you're outside Jerusalem, there's a chumrah. Whether you're inside Jerusalem, there's a chumrah. The thing is that Mishnah, the middle source, that said that both by Meiser Sheni and by Ir Miklat, you go based on the branches, and it's an unattributed Mishnah. If we want to say it's Rabbi Yehuda, well then, okay, so we explain how Rabbi Yehuda could be machmir by Meiser Sheni. What would be the chumras when it comes to Ir Miklat? Right? One chumrah would be that if the so if you have the tree that's outside the tchum of the Ir Miklat, but the branches go inside the tchum of the Ir Miklat, so the chumrah would be that since the branches go inside the tchum, we would treat the whole tree like it's inside the tchum, and therefore the Goel Adam cannot kill the Rotzeach, and that's a chumrah on the Goel Adam that he can't kill the Rotzeach since the branches are inside the tchum of the Ir Miklat. However, the opposite, if the tree was inside the tchum of the Ir Miklat and the branches go outside the tchum of the Ir Miklat, well, if the Rotzeach is, so what would the chumrah be? The chumrah would be that, well, for the Rotzeach, that now the Goel Adam could kill him, right? Even though he's in the tchum of the Ir Miklat, since the branches go outside the tchum, the Goel Adam would be able to kill him when he's standing under the tree inside the tchum. The thing is, if he's inside the tchum, how could the Goel Adam kill him? That doesn't make sense. So what would be the chumrah that what would be the chumrah that would be able to apply by Ir Miklat when the tree is inside the tchum of the Ir Miklat, but the branches go outside, right? So again, yeah, there's a lot here. But basically, right, all we know that Rabbi Yehuda says is that by Meiser Sheni, we go based on the chumras, but based on the branches where they are. But by Meiser Sheni, I can understand because there's chumras whether you're outside of Jerusalem, whether you're inside of Jerusalem, there's chumras. But that middle source, the Mishnah, which we want to attribute to Rabbi Yehuda, the thing is that middle source is saying that both by Meiser Sheni as well as by Ir Miklat, you go based on the branches, but what are the chumras that you can apply by Ir Miklat, both outside the tchum and inside the tchum? Okay, that was a lot. But now all the stuff that I just explained outside, we're now going to see inside. So Eimer Deshamis Leila Rabbi Yehuda Gabi Meiser Lechumra. I'll say that by Meiser Sheni, when Rabbi Yehuda says that you go based on where the branches are, it is Lechumra. Ikaru Bachutz, if the tree itself is outside Jerusalem, Vinofo Bifnim, and the branches extend inside Jerusalem, so we'll treat it like you're inside Jerusalem, and therefore you cannot be Poda Meiser Sheni anymore. Kihechi Dibinofo Lo Matzi Parik. So just like where the branches extend to, i.e. inside Jerusalem, if you have Meiser Sheni, at that point you can no longer be Poda it. So Bikaru Nami Lo Matzi Parik. So also if you're standing under the tree outside of the walls, you still cannot be Poda it anymore, since the branches extend inside the walls. And Ikaru Mi Bifnim, and the opposite, when you have the tree itself inside the walls of Jerusalem, Vinofu Mi Bachutz, and the branches extend outside of the walls of Jerusalem, will be stringent. Kiechi de benofo lo matzi ochil below pdia. Just like outside, where the branches are outside of Jerusalem, you cannot eat the Meiser Sheni unless you redeem it first. Bikaru nami. So also, if you are under the tree inside the walls, lo matzi ochil, you would be unable to eat the Meiser Sheni below pdia unless you had already been podate. So Ella, okay, so I understand by Meiser Sheni how either way there are chumras, but Gabi Ore Miklat, but by Ir Miklat, Bishlama Ikaro Bachutz Vinofo Bifnim. So I understand what the chumra would be if the tree is outside of the tchum of the Ir Miklat, but the branches extend inside the tchum of the Ir Miklat. So I understand what the chumra is that Ki Eichi de Binofo Lo Matzi Kotule. So just like the Goel Adam cannot kill the Rotzeach inside, right, where the branches are inside the Tchum of the Ir Miklat, so Bikaro Nami Lo Matzi Katule. So also by the rest, right, if he's standing under the tree outside of the Tchum, the Goel Adam cannot kill him, because we'll treat it like it's inside the Tchum. But if the main part of the tree was inside the tchum, and the branches extend outside of the tchum, and he is now standing inside the tchum under the tree, how could we treat it like outside of the tchum? So if we say that just like where the branches are, i.e. outside of the tchum, the Goel Adam can kill the Rotzeach, Bikaru Nami Matzi Kotule, are we going to say that also if he's standing under the tree inside the tchum, the Goel Adam can kill him? But he's in the tchum of the Ir Miklat. How could that be? Well, so Amar Rava says, Rava, look, Beikaro Dichule Alma Lo Plige de Lo Matzi Kotil. Well, look, certainly everybody agrees that if the Rotzeach is standing under the tree inside of the tchum of the Ir Miklat, the Goel Adam cannot kill him. Koi benofo v'yachol lahargo bechitzim uvitzroris, and if he is standing under the branches of the tree, which is outside of the tchum, and the Goel Adam can shoot arrows and stones and things at him and kill him that way, well then certainly the Goel Adam would be able to kill him that way because he's standing under the branches outside of the tchum. Kiplige, where they argue, where Rabbi Yehuda would say that you go based on the branches, is b'meheve ikaro darge lenofo. The question is, can the Goel Adam go into the, you have this tree whose branches extend outside of the tchum of the Ir Miklat. Can the Goel Adam run underneath this tree and go to the stump of the tree, climb up the tree, go to the branches which are outside of the Ir Miklat, but basically use the base of the tree which is inside the tchum of the Ir Miklat to then go to the branches that are outside of the Ir Miklat to then kill the Rotzeach? Rabbi Yehuda says that, well, go based on the branches, and we'll treat it like it's outside of the tchum, i.e., yes, he would be able to climb up the tree in order to kill the Rotzeach on the branches outside of the tchum, and Marsav Avikaro Darga Lenofo, Marsav Lo Avikaro Darga Lenofo, but the Chachamim would say that no, you can't do that. All right, fine. Rav Asher Amar Acher Anof, Af Acher Anof. Whereas Rav Ashi kind of simplifies things. He says, look, it doesn't say Acher, oh, perfect. The people are coming back to make noise right when we finish the complicated part. That is good. That's very good. It's about to get noisy. That was perfect. Perfect timing, guys. Rav Ashi simplifies things a little bit by saying that it means you can go even based on the branches, which means that not in all cases, you don't always go based on the branches, but you can go based on the branches. So meaning, by the Ir Miklat, if the tree is inside of the tchum and the branches extend outside of the tchum, so then you would not go based on the branches, meaning if he's standing inside or under the tree inside the tchum, the Goel Adam cannot kill him. But if it's the opposite, if the tree is outside the tchum but the branches extend inside the tchum, also we would say that the Goel Adam cannot kill the Rotzeach because the branches extend inside the tchum. Okay, now is what... Okay, I need to think now. Am I going to go for it to finish the parak? I think I am. Let's just do it. It's already been like a complicated... This last bit was complicated. Let's just say, you know what? Let's just push and we're going to... I think let's just finish the parak. Says the Mishnah. Harag be'osa ha'ir gol mishchune l'shchune. So if you have a Rotzeach, and he was exiled to an Ir Miklat, and then in the Ir Miklat, he accidentally kills somebody else. A real klutz. Now he's not allowed to leave the Ir Miklat because he's got to stay there. Can't leave until the Kohen Gadol dies. So he goes from one neighborhood to another neighborhood. Uven Levi golem me'ir le'ir. And what if you have a Ben Levi? What if you have a Levi who was born in the Ir Miklat? That's where he lives. Right? Because after all, it's not just for accidental killers. We even said that the accidental killers cannot be the majority of the city. Right? The majority has to be other people. So the Ari Leviim, so if you have a Levi who just happened to live, right? Well, not he was living in a Levite city, which are also double as Ir Miklats. So he was living there, and then he accidentally killed somebody. So he's allowed to leave his city. So he goes to a different Levite city. Tanu Rabbanan the Rabbi Stot says the Gemara, "V'samti l'cha mokim, v'samti l'cha b'chayim, b'chayecha." So the Rabbanan Shalom is saying to Moshe that even during your lifetime, you will make these cities of refuge. Makim mimakomcha, in your place, meaning in the machne levia, in the machne levia. It says Rashi, but it's 2 lines from the bottom of Rashi. Shtei machne levia koletes v'af ori miklat you ori levia. That the machne levia, and then also in the future in Eretz Yisrael, the ori levim will be the Ir Miklatz, Asher Yonus Shama, that they will flee to their Melamed, Shehoyu Yisrael Maglin Bamidbar, Lechen Maglin Lemachne Levia. That actually in the desert, when they would have the encampments, and there was the Machne Shechina, and outside of that was the Machne Levia. What was it? Yeah, right? That's how it went, right? Was that not how it went in the Midbar? No, I can't remember. Right, there was Machne Shechina, that's where like the Mishkan was and stuff. Then there was Machne Levia around that. Then there was like Machne Yisrael, everybody else. So if you killed somebody accidentally, you would run to the Machne Levia in the desert. That's interesting. Because from here they said Ben Levi Shaharag, that a Ben Levi who kills, go let me pelech lefelech, will go from one. So we've understood this in the past to mean like one province, but here I think it means one city to another city. Right? So I guess in the Midbar you'd go from like one part of the Machne Levia to a different part. V'imgala lefalcho Palcho Kolto, but if you just went to, I guess even if he went to a different, meaning in our mission we said that if a Ben Levi kills, so he goes to a different city, but I guess maybe what it's saying is that from the fact that in the Midbar it was just the Machne Levia, so there is no other cities, so you can also potentially just go to another neighborhood. That could also work. Amrav Acha Brei de Rav Ika Maikra ki be'ir miklato yeshev ir shekalatato kvar. How do we know that you can go to a different like neighborhood in the city? Because it says Ir Miklato, right? His Ir Miklat, right? Ir Shekalato Kvar, the city that already absorbed him and provided refuge to him, so you can go already to a different place within that same city. Okay, final Mishnah of the second, and also the second to last, Perek of Masechta Makos. Kayotzebo, similarly, Rotzeach Shagala Le'ir Miklatov Ratu Anshe Ir Lechabdo. Okay, so the Gosabach says that actually Kayutzebe doesn't necessarily belong here. I don't know. Rotzeach Shagala Le'ir Miklato. So you have a Rotzeach who's in his Ir Miklat. V'Ratu Anshe Ir Lechabdo. And the people in the city wanted to give him kavod, wanted to give him honor. Yomar Lem, he has to first tell them, but wait, Rotzeach Ani, I'm here because I'm an accidental killer. If they said, okay, we don't care, whatever, we still want to give you kavod. Yikab men, okay, so you can accept the honor. Shenemar v'zed dvar, Rotzeach, these are the words of the Rotzeach. I think the point is that he has to tell, he has to use his words, he has to tell people that, I am a Rotzeach. Buddha says that they would have to rent their apartment, right? They would have to have a place to live, and they would rent places from the Levim that lived there. Reb Meir disagrees, and he says no, they would not have to pay rent. It was provided, right? Places to live were provided to them, for them. Meir says that when the Kohen Gadol dies and he goes back to his life, so he goes back to whatever prior honor and stuff that he had before, positions, all sorts of things. He goes right back to his previous life and positions and honor. Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo hayachos. No, he was. So I guess if you had a fancy job or something like that, he gets his job back. But Rabbi Yehuda says that he would not go back to his prior position. Omer Rav Kahana says, the Gemara says, Rav Kahana machlokas b'sheish, that this machlokas about, right, Rabbi Yehuda says that they would have to pay rent. Rav Meir says no, it's paid for them, they're taken care of. So this machlokas is by the 6 Ari Miklat, right? We said that there are 6 Ari Miklat, and there are additional 42 Ari Miklat. So by this machlokas is by the 6 Ari Miklat. Right, so Omer Rav Kahana machlokas b'sheish. Tamar Savar Lochem Leklita, that Rabbi Yehuda says, look, when he says Vayu Lochem Ha'arim Lemiklat, so Lochem is just Leklita. It provides refuge. That's it. There's no guaranteed housing and for free and stuff. No, just refuge. The Goel Adam, you're safe from the Goel Adam here. That's it. Whereas Rabbi Meir says, no, Lochem means for all of your needs, everything's provided for you in the Ir Miklat. But the other 42 cities that were not the 6 specific ones, the 6 special ones, the other 42, both Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir agree that they would have to pay their own rent. Amalei Rav responds to Rav Kahana. No, for sure, when it says lachem, it applies to lachem, for you, is for all your needs. Everything's included. And Elo Amarava rather says, Rav Machlokas by Boim V'Shtayim. No, the Machlokas is specifically by the other 42. To Ma'asova Va'aleim Titnu, that when the Pasuk says, and in addition to the 6, there are also another 42, skip the next 2 words, Leklita, there's another 42 that they will accept you and that you'll be safe from the Goel Adam. U'Ma'asova Va'aleim Titnu, and whereas Reb Meir says that the 42 as well, it says, right, and additionally upon them there will also be these. They're the same as the 6, right? That just like by the 6, all your needs are taken care of and you don't have to pay rent. So also by the additional 42, according to Reb Meir, but with the 6 themselves, but in the 6 themselves, everybody agrees that they would not have to pay rent. It says lachem l'chol tzorkechem. The question is, by the 42, is it the same treatment in that everything's paid for, everything's taken care of, or by the 42, you're just safe from the Goel Adam, but that is it. Rabbi Yehuda says that is it, and Reb Meir says everything is taken care of. And afterwards, when the Kohen Gadol dies and he goes home, he goes back to his previous life as things were. One of the rabbis taught that by a Eved Ivri, when an Eved Ivri goes free after 6 years, So it says, V'shav mishpachto, he goes home to his family, V'lachuzas avosav yashuv, and he returns to the, lands of his father. The mishpachto ushav ve'eno shav l'mashech ziku avosav div Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda says, look, he returns to his family, but he doesn't necessarily get back, all of the positions of his family, of his father that he had before. Rav Meir says, af hushav l'mashech ziku avosav elachuzas avosav ki avosav. No, he goes back when he goes free from being an Eved Ivri. He goes back to exactly how things were before. V'chein bagola, and this same machlokas applies as well to Ir Miklat when one returns from an Ir Miklat. Omer Yashuv, when it says by an Eved Ivri, right? It says V'shav mishpachto v'lachuzas avosav Yashuv. That's an extra word, right? It could have just said V'shav mishpachto v'lachuzas avosav. What's the extra word Yashuv? L'rabos sarotzech. It's coming to include the Rotzeach as well when he returns from the Ir Miklat. Mai v'chein begola. What does it mean? And similarly, by Ir Miklat, Kedetanis, we learn in Ebraisa, Yashuv HaRotzeach el eretz achuzaso, l'eretz achuzaso ushav ve'eno shav lema shechziku avosav. That by Ir Miklat it says, right, that Yashuv HaRotzeach el eretz achuzaso l'eretz achuzaso ushav. Returns to his land, his ancestral lands, but he doesn't return to like that which he had before, I guess positions and authority that he had before. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rav Meir says, Afu shav l'mashech ziku avosav. Rav Meir says, no, he also returns by a Ir Miklat when he goes free to the positions that his fathers had. Shiva me'asim, because it says Yashuv by Eved Ivri, and it says Yashuv by Ir Miklat, to compare them. And just like by an Eved Ivri, he goes back to his previous positions, so also by an Ir Miklat, Hadron Oloch, Elu en Agolin. We'll come back to Elu en Agolin. Chevre, that was Daf Yud Beis of Masechta Makos. It was a big daf. We learned a bunch of halachas about Goal Adam. Is it mitzvah for the Goal Adam? Is it optional for the Goal Adam? At what point is the Goal Adam allowed to kill? And the Rotzeach. We learned about the Tchum of the Ir Miklat and the trees that are extending outside and inside Meiser Sheni and the Ir Miklat. We learned we learned another Mishnah about if somebody kills when he's already in the Ir Miklat, he goes from one neighborhood to the next. And then we talked about do you have to pay rent in an Ir Miklat? It's Machlokas Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Meir. When he goes back, does he kind of go back to his previous roles and position and authority and stuff? Also Machlokas Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda. Peace out.